Hey everyone, Josh Hayes here for Scorestreak.com, and today I'm going to talk about my top 3 bankroll management tips for DFS. So let's go ahead and get into it. We'll start with number 1. First thing you need to do is understand your expected win rates. So if you're a player that likes to play the double ups, you should probably expect to cash in somewhere in the range of 57 to 60-ish%. If you're a really good player and you set great lineups, you could get up into the 70% range. I've seen some people who are there. But generally speaking, that's where it should be, 57-ish to 60%, maybe more. So the second part of that is a lot of people love to play GPPs, just like myself. They pay 20% of the prize pool, and you should probably figure that your cash percentage in the GPPs is going to be somewhere from 10 to 20%, depending on how well you set your GPP lineups and how many entries you use. So obviously the more entries you use, the better chance you have to cash and win, but you also could be burning a bigger percentage of your bankroll. Which leads me to my second tip here is how much of your bankroll should you put in play on a given day. For me personally, I like to play closer to 20% of my bankroll because I'm fairly confident in my lineups and I like to get more action out there. It's probably smarter if you're just getting started out, or if you're sort of a break-even player, or if you're struggling a little bit to sort of lean towards the 10% range. And out of your total bankroll, you should probably not be playing too much more than 2% of your bankroll in terms of GPPs on a daily basis there. Because, you know, like we said, GPPs, it's a lot harder to cash on a consistent basis, so it's a great way to set your bankroll on fire if you're firing up a ton of GPPs and trying to hit all the home runs. Not saying that you can't do that, it's just going to be a lot tougher for you to manage your bankroll and avoid redepositing if that's the route you decide to go. So it's a great example for anybody just looking for hard numbers here. If you had a $120 bankroll, my suggestion to you on a given day for NBA would be to play the massive double ups. I lean towards those rather than the 40, 30, or 20 mans because there's more entries, there's more opportunity for players to make mistakes or to have dead lineups in there. So I like to go for the big fields, a 4,000 player or whatnot, 50-50s when I get my lineups in there. Alright, so as a good example here, if I had a $120 bankroll and I was playing on something like FanDuel or DraftKings, is I would play a $10 massive 50-50. I would play two $5 massive 50-50s, and then take a shot at a $2 tournament. Take that optimal lineup I had and throw that in a $2 50K guaranteed or 60K guaranteed tournament there as well. So that would be $22 in action and play. You know, that's probably a little bit on the aggressive side. You could take a $5 double up away if you wanted to lean more towards 10%. But that's an example of what I would do to sort of, play those double ups and grind up my bankroll on a daily basis. And the third tip I have for bankroll management here, it's sort of twofold. Number one, you need to take advantage of every little edge that you can exploit to help increase your bankroll. And that means taking advantage of overlays. Good example today on DraftKings. I think they had a 4,000 person overlay for their $2 tournament for NBA. So that's huge. That really sends your expected return, your ROI. That really helps out your bankroll in terms of ROI when you're able to take advantage of things like that. And make sure you take advantage of all the bonuses that are available, all the free rolls that they end up throwing you. Every little thing that you can do to help increase your bankroll will help you get to the next step for you to becoming a top DFS player. So there's that part, number one. Number two, the second thing you need to do is if you're not using some sort of projection system, some sort of cheat sheets, and now a lot of people like to just go out there and pick their own teams. That's one of the the best parts of DFS is getting in there, setting your lineups, choosing the guys that you want to use. But if you're not using some sort of cheat sheet or projection system, you're probably behind a lot of the players that are out there that are using those tools to help you set your daily fantasy lineups there. Grinders Incentives is a great one. Roto World employs a lot of the people who write for Roto Grinders, some of the top players in the world, so they're putting out a lot of quality blogs there. And I believe RotoWire has its own daily fantasy projection tool there as well that you can use for free. So those are all things you can help use to take advantage of the tools available to set your daily fantasy lineups in a better fashion. The one thing I will say is some people have come to me and said, well, you know what, I tried Grinders Incentives, I use their lineup construction tool, I still lose. So what am I doing wrong? Well, you have to keep in mind that if you use those projection systems, that's like the basis and the foundation of you setting your lineups. You're still going to have to pay attention to the news You know, take a look at players that are available, injuries, all the other stuff that factors in that happens throughout the day, and make adjustments to set the best possible lineup in there. I would never recommend just using the projection system and setting it and forgetting it. There's always a way to make it better, usually given the news. Sometimes there's not, but a lot of times there is. And, you know, that's what you need to do in order to, you know, sort of put yourself over the edge. That can be the difference between you winning and losing, is actively making tweaks to your lineup and taking advantage of injuries, you know, sneaky GPP plays, and stuff that happens closer to lineup locks each and every day. So there you have it, my top 3 tips for bankroll management for DFS players. All this stuff, it applies no matter what site you play on, whether you're playing on FanDuel, DraftKings, Scorestreak. There's always a way to get better, and there's always some extra information out there that you can take advantage to help you set better daily fantasy lineups. If you have any questions about this blog or any questions in general for daily fantasy, you can always reach me on Twitter at FantasyHoopsPod. Make sure you give Scorestreak a follow as well at Scorestreaker. They've really stepped up their GPP and their double up game as of late, and they're throwing a ton of free rolls your way right now. So if you haven't got a chance to check out Scorestreak, make sure you do so ASAP. Links down there in the bottom to check out all the great information that we just talked about. Good luck in all your fantasy matchups, everybody.